All right, welcome back. My name is Doug Sandler. This is another episode of Building Your Life podcast with John Browning. My name is Doug Sandler. I am the co-host of this show. And today, first of all, hi, John. Welcome.
Hey, good to be here.
Hey, so I was wondering in the last couple of episodes, I know that many of those that are listening are just listening and they're not seeing you. Now, you place this where? On a YouTube channel as well? Is that where this is going?
It's also on my YouTube channel. Yep. Those of you who were watching there caught me getting a little bit of a drink. But yeah, that's also on YouTube if you want to look at my pretty face, which my wife would tell you somewhere along the way that didn't look so pretty.
So you're in front of what I take is your living room. You have a good mid-century dresser or bureau back there with a flat screen television set and a very healthy plant. Is that real or is that green screen?
That is absolutely green screen. Yeah, my office is not nearly that neat. One of these days, I'll get an office that is worthy of a background picture. Yeah,
I don't have. This isn't green screen behind me. This is actually my office, but it's a very small space, and I do keep it. I'm one of those guys. What's your desk look like in your office? Are you a skating rink kind of desktop, or are you a piles guy? What do you tend to?
I tend to be a piles guy. Yeah, once a month or so, I clean it all up and organize a little bit, but I tend to get into piles. Yeah, I have to admit that.
How about is your wife a piles kind of woman, or is she the opposite? Like my girlfriend, she is totally a piles person, and I'm skating rink. So there's always like the bathroom countertop. My half of the counter, it's a 2-sink. My half looks perfectly clean, and hers looks like a war zone in makeup. It looks like Clairol got in a fight with Maybelline.
Yes. I would say my wife is much, much, much more of a skating rink type, although that does not translate to the bathroom.
Wow. Well, to the defense of most of the women that are probably in the community that's out there, women tend to have a little bit more self-care going on than us guys, which equates to more product. So having a lot of product in a limited space like a bathroom countertop, that's really challenging. And I'm a kind of guy that I have a lot of product. I have the beard oils, I have the salves and the balms, and I have all of the tooth products and all of that other stuff. I still think I'm generally a fairly neat guy, but just looking at her side, it gives me the heebie-jeebies just because it's too many things on that countertop.
I was excited when they came out with I use Melaleuca and all their products, they're very innovative in what they put out there. And so they came out with a men's product that is both shampoo and a body wash.
Now, that's good.
That's perfect.
One soap. That's all I need. You have one bottle in the shower, and that's all you need.
Right.
All right. So we told them a few episodes ago that we would end up talking a little bit more about innovation, and then I completely hijacked every freaking episode from there. And we touched on those things, and then in between recording last session, see, I'm giving everybody a little bit of insider look behind the trading room floor. John said, "Hey, it would be really cool if we actually talk about those subjects that we promised." And I'm like, "Well, maybe I need to just shut up and let you talk." So, it tends to be me. I'm used to just being the co-host that kind of runs things with my Nice Guys on Business podcast, my Turnkey podcast, my Ford Mustang all the podcasts that I run, which is multiple. I end up being the guy that's in the lead, and you're a leader also, and you're a strong personality. So, can I shut up and just let you run this episode?
Well, no, I think it's really valuable because you ask some phenomenal questions that I know other people have. So I think that's been good.
Thanks, John. You're just being kind to me now.
No, it's true. It's absolutely true. But one of the questions that you asked in an earlier podcast was where do we invest now to position ourselves to profit?
Right.
Because especially in a market environment, and I'm going to date the podcast a little bit here. This is in 2023, very beginning of the year. 2022 was a horrendous year. Yeah. No matter if you thought you were in safe, quote unquote, treasury bonds, they had their worst year in terms of total return since I can't remember. I went back and looked. Now I can't remember, of course, but I believe it even was worse in the late 70s. I think he had to go back into the 20s before you found even remotely close.
Perfect.
And then, so you thought you were safe over here with your bonds, and that's what you had so that it cushioned the blow of being down. And by the way, 10-year treasuries are down like 20% total return. That includes the dividend they were paying. So then you in the S&P 500, that was down 20%. And then if you were in growth stocks or NASDAQ stocks, NASDAQ was down like 30-some%. So here, I'm shrinking.
You're making me feel probably a little bit hesitant to open a statement that I haven't opened in about 18 months. I don't think since the beginning of COVID I've opened up any of my statements. I don't want to know because I'm not. What am I going to do if I see what the number is? What am I going to do?
Yeah, well, that's what I want to talk about on this episode.
Yes. Okay, let's do it. I'm gonna play the dummy, which isn't a hard role for me to play, and you play the smart guy, which is not a hard role for you to play.
I know about that.
Let's do that.
So, what I like to tell people in this market environment, especially if they have a longer time horizon before they're going to retire, in which case that's when sequence of returns. Feel free to ask me about that on a future podcast episode. Sequence of returns becomes super important, and you have to plan for that several years out in advance of when you plan to retire.
Makes sense.
But if you've got an investment horizon, or even if you are in retirement and you have a portion, emphasizing portion of your portfolio in growth stocks because you need to grow that portfolio even during retirement, you look at where you don't look at. So Wayne Gretzky is known for having said, I don't go where the puck is, I go where the puck is going, right? He said it better than I did, but that's what we're looking for. We're looking for not where the puck is right now on that ice skate rink, on that hockey rink. We're looking at where it is most likely to go. And again, if you are say you're a plumber, and I can't figure out where the leak is, because you're a plumber, you can have a much better idea. Hey, you know what? Water travels, and your leak, even though you see the water here, it's probably way over here.
Right.
You're going to know that, right? After doing this for 3 decades, that's what I have begun to get good at, right? I've begun to be able to see those things. I'm not perfect at it. And neither is your plumber. Your plumber is going to miss and poke more than one hole in the wall, right?
Understood.
But I'm decent at figuring out where that puck is going to be. And as I look at the landscape right now, again, we talked about the pillars of innovation, which at some point we'll go through each one of those. Maybe that'd be good for a podcast episode. But if you look at where things are not just innovative, but profitably innovative. And innovation is something that you may not even recognize. It might not even be that really cool thing, right? One of the most innovative companies around is Cimex. Again, not investment advice. I am not suggesting anybody buy that stock, but they make cement. Well, years and years ago, they figured out different ways to make different types of cement that hardened in different ways and, for different environments. And they began to dominate the cement industry. That is, folks, that's boring.
Yeah, it's totally not sexy, but totally it's a product that look at how many things cement is in. It's pretty much in everything that's construction.
Name it. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Right. And how many different uses there are of it, and different types of cement for different things in different places. So they made a lot of money, and they were a great investment, right? So again, not saying they are right now. So what now is really interesting? Well, a really boring area of the market is food production, food packaging, farming. That is not interesting to most people.
Not sexy.
Right? There are artificial intelligence applications in place now that are generating profits for particular companies that are in the food production space, that are in the farming space, that are helping to develop better packaging so that we can get food from point A to point B and it's still good, still tastes good, still is good for you, still maintains the nutrients, all of that. So in the air, and by the way, what is really hurting in the world today? What is one of the major problems that we have? Russia invaded Ukraine, which was the breadbasket of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Here in the United States, we have for years paid farmers not to farm. The United States now has to make up that difference for Europe. And South America is helping us, Canada is helping us, but we need to get food to the people over there that don't have as much as we once had. So that's, again, the food production, the food transportation, and getting it there the right way. Again, not sexy, not exciting, but there are a lot of innovations that are helping make that happen better than it's ever happened before.
So are you keeping an eye on that type of technology or in that environment? Or so I appreciate you sharing all that. So how does that help your customer in the long run, the client that's coming to you and asking for advice?
So when you invest, it can be really important to understand that it may not be investing in the obvious thing, but investing around that obvious thing.
Okay.
So take, for instance, we could use farming, but let's switch. Let's go to Bitcoin, right? That's all the rage, right? Oh my God, what's happening with Bitcoin? It's going down. That's what's happening. And cryptocurrency in general. Well, what are the things around Bitcoin? This is what Guardian Rock has been investing in, is not directly into Bitcoin, but into the technology that makes Bitcoin possible, and what companies are involved with that and making money from that, and will likely continue to do so in the future.
It's interesting. So it's like all of the ancillary companies that are around the innovative technology that have to support the innovative technology. Like if there is an improvement in the way things are created and distributed, well, maybe there is a logistics company that supports that. Maybe they're not the farming company, but the company that actually does the trucking for the farming company is going to become busier. Or if blockchain or if crypto technology, the support is maybe there's a blockchain company that much more than just crypto, they're involved in other forms of investments and stuff. So yeah, I can see those as being, so you're looking at not just the company that's the innovating company, but you're looking at the companies that support those companies too, to help with providing advice.
Right. And just to go another, where to position yourself to profit, you never want to be in any one sector. You never want to be in any one, company or stock. I like to call them companies because I don't like to invest in stocks. I like to invest in businesses and companies. So what is another area that has been unfortunately impacted greatly by the war in Ukraine? It's the energy sector.
Mm-hmm, right? Definitely.
But just to go out and invest in barrels of oil, that didn't actually work out so well this year. Oil is actually down significantly from where we started the year, and which surprised a lot of people, including myself. And what is a technology, an innovation that happened back in the late mid 90s, was the idea of liquefied natural gas. And that's the idea that you can take many, many, many cubic yards of natural gas, like enough to fill an incredibly large room. And by freezing it to ridiculously cold temperatures, you can make it the size of a thimble. I mean, this is not an exaggeration. It contracts huge. This was a great innovation back in, say, the 90s. I'd have to look up the exact date on that. Everybody thought that was going to be all the rage going forward. They were developing ships to ship it, and they were going to have these ports that could do it. And then they did all that, but it really didn't go anywhere. It never, it was fine. Maybe they made a little bit of profit. Well, now that particular industry, and we're a little late in this trade, right? So I'm giving investment advice here. That ship hasn't sailed completely around the world, but it has already experienced a pretty good run up. But you're seeing LNG become a huge part of the solution for Europe in particular, in getting them the energy that they need now that Russia has cut off the gas that used to supply like 90% of Germany's natural gas needs. How do you get it there? Well, you do LNG, you ship it in these specialized ships, and you offload it.
I think there's a company in Texas. I can't remember exactly where they are, and I don't remember the name of the gentleman. I was listening to an episode of The Daily, I believe it was, and they were talking all about this guy that became a billionaire from shrinking, reducing, and shipping this natural gas overseas, and it is like the next thing, or it was the next thing at one point. Right. But yeah, the ship hasn't sailed, but it's definitely sailing hard right now. It's in a strong, sturdy wind.
Right, and you look at other things like Europe, and particularly in Germany, they made the decision to shutter all of their nuclear plants. That's being reconsidered, given what's going on. And it's not like you can just flip a switch and turn on a nuclear reactor. But if you believe all the studies out there, I don't believe there's any that contradict this. Nuclear energy is one of the safest and cleaner forms of energy that there is. And we already know how to use it and how to make it. So what then might benefit from a lot of new nuclear reactors coming online in Europe and maybe around the world? They tend to run off uranium. Might be another idea for a portion of the portfolio. Again, this is not investment advice, but these are the kind of things, and there's a lot more of them out there. You had mentioned graphene. Right. I forget if it was on the podcast or when we were talking before.
Right.
Graphene was an invention, and it is graphite. Yeah, it's the stuff in pencil lead. But used in a different way, it is stronger than steel, kind of made up of the same stuff as diamonds, right? But it's only a lot more brittle. And guess what it does is if you put it together the right way, number one, it's stronger than steel. That's important. You can build scaffolding out of this stuff. And if you do it right, that's just an crazy example. The other thing it does is it conducts electricity. For the past 2 decades, we have not been able to figure out how to build a better battery with graphene, though. But back in the 90s, it was like, this is going to change the world. Guess what? It didn't. Now we're a lot closer than we were then. Are we? Is it ready for prime time? Don't know. I'm still skeptical, but I do know that they're getting a lot closer there, and they're getting a lot closer with other types of battery technology. But none of them are quite ready for, again, that prime time. So we're going a lot more to EV. The CEO of the largest automaker in the world says, guys, this EV thing is great. Electronic vehicles are great, but we're going to be making gas-powered cars for a long time. So that's the CEO of Toyota.
Wow.
Said this, and he's like the lone voice that's kind of.
Well, is he being the is he being the realist though? He might be being the realist. They were talking about the ecological impact that all of these batteries are going to be having as opposed to gas, and it's almost like, hey, look, we're trading one evil for another by building all of these batteries. Even though we're changing out of gas, we're changing into the whole the whole battery thing, which has its own drawbacks too. I'm not saying I'm not a proponent of staying with the tide and changing over the technology. I'm just saying there are negatives to that side as well, and maybe that CEO of Toyota is just being a little bit more realistic than guys. It's not going to happen I don't think it's going to happen. But what did they say by 2050? They were talking about all everything's going to be EV.
Hey, it could, but we just don't know enough about the recycling. Tesla is the only one that I know of, and I could be very wrong on that. There might be another firm out there. But Tesla is only taking like 50 batteries a day to recycle, and they figured out a way to do it. as Tesla tends to figure out a way to do everything. But they figured out a way to do it, but at 50 batteries a day, they don't know for sure if there's just not enough data to test it, whether it's viable or not. The good news is it looks like it might be. So we might reclaim a lot more of those materials. But again, it's not very many at 50 batteries a day, right? Comparatively.
All right, John. So we talked a lot about technology today. We talked about innovation as well. In the last previous few episodes, we've talked about that and provided a little bit of guidance to those that are listening to our show. All right, I'm a layman. I'm a guy that's out there just trying to figure out what my next move is. I have a couple of dollars sitting in a bank account right now, or I'm getting ready to roll over my 401k, which was in mutual funds, which we already found out in the last few episodes. Maybe I'm dealing with some antiques. I might want to make some moves. What's the best way for somebody to figure out what their next move is, and how can they make it if they're going to be making some changes? Over to you.
So when someone comes to me, we actually don't start with their portfolio. As you know, we're about building your life using the tool we call money. So before we get started building that building that we call your life, we first want to know what the blueprint even is. Like, well, what's the end product going to look like? So that's what we're looking at first. Then we're going to talk to you about how comfortable are you if you started 2022 with $100,000 and now you have $75,000.
I was going to say we probably have a lot less than that right now if we started with $100,000. Yep.
So how do you feel? And I press people. I'm annoying. I tell people I'm the 2-year-old. I'm the why guy. So I'll ask you. I will often ask people. They'll give me the answer. Oh, I'll be fine. Okay, so you're fine with $75,000 because you're sure the market is going to come back. Well, there have been times in history where the market hasn't come back for 2 years. There's even been one time where it didn't come back for 5. Right? If you got to search for that one. So in 5 years, you're still okay, and you're down to like 30 or 40,000.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Oh wow. Oh wow. It suddenly becomes more real, and then you're like, well, why do you feel that way? Well, and they say, oh, that's obvious. It's my money. I worked hard for it. Well, okay, but what does money mean to you? What does money really mean to you? And then we ask them, well, why does it mean that to you? And it's funny. I have some people tell me, well, it means the same thing to everybody. Well, that is absolutely not true. Money means different things to a lot of different things to different people.
Yeah.
So we go through all of that, and that begins to determine how we start to put together the blueprint or the roadmap to how we want to put this together that's best for you, not for somebody else, but for you. And this is where we differ from many of the firms out there who have they'll have 4, 3, 5, maybe boxes that they put you in. And they'll give you a little test, and they'll ask you a bunch of questions, and you'll come into one of those boxes where they will just throw you into the 5 mutual funds or whatever. We're going to be a lot more granular with you, and we're going to talk about what portion control we need. What sequence of returns do we need? And that sequence of returns is, again, we talked about this in past episodes, are enormously important. And one client might need absolutely no insurance. It's possible. They may need no life insurance. And it might be a waste of money for them to be putting money into a life insurance product. Another person, because of their sequence of returns or because they really want to, say, leave a bunch of money to their kids, they may want to have some life insurance. But again, portion control here. Right. And that can mean, life insurance and annuities can manage your sequence of returns risk really effectively. On the flip side, if you have no growth in there and you haven't inherited a bunch of money or sold a business for several $100 million, you need some growth. Right. So then we're going to talk about what portion of your portfolio belongs in growth versus what portion belongs in more income producing securities that are going to feed that growth. And then after that, we're going to talk about the plan for when things drop. What's our sell discipline? When are we going to sell when things drop? Not as a panic. We're not going to panic. We're not going to panic if it's still a good position, still a good company, solid company. We may keep it, or there might be a point at which we're like, enough. We're getting rid of that. And then we have a sell discipline on the upside. So and I use percentage of portfolio. And for whatever reason, this is a really difficult concept for a lot of people to understand. But I use it almost exclusively. If you get up to a certain percentage of your portfolio, no matter how much I like the company or how much I like the investment, if it makes up 10% of your portfolio, generally speaking, I'm like, that's too much. We need to trim it. We don't need to sell the whole thing. We need to trim it. Oh no, then I got to pay taxes. Well, guess what? If you're paying taxes, number one, that means you're not in a tax advantaged account, which could be a problem, although it might be appropriate. But if you're paying taxes, what does that mean? You made money. This is a good thing. And I've seen people hold on to the investments that they love because they don't want to pay taxes. And then that company, over time, many companies, if not all companies, die.
Yeah.
And they hold on to them so long, and then they don't have to worry about paying taxes because they don't have any gains anymore. So we'll talk about the plan for all this stuff before we get started.
Yeah, it's
the question.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great answer to the question, because I mean, the idea behind it is, do you want somebody that's just an order taker, or do you want somebody that actually is going to understand what you want in your life, and what you want for your better life as you start moving into the future, getting closer to retirement, and it's a pretty comprehensive approach to advice. So, John, again, we'll give you a chance to share a little bit about your business, how somebody can get in touch with you, and then we'll wrap for today, and we'll come back next week with some more information. That's stuff that we're probably not going to talk about for 6 more episodes, because I seem to get us off track a lot here. So, why don't you share how people can get in touch with you if they want to get more information about you and your business?
The easiest way probably is go to guardianrockwealth.com and click the contact us page and leave us a note. The second easiest way, and in my opinion, a better way, because you get a lot more information right there at your fingertips, is take out your phone, go to the texting app, and type in 321-421-5213 and text the word life. And you'll get a link back with all kinds of links to free information that we put out. We put things out on a weekly, on a daily basis even, and of course on a monthly basis as well. So, and you can schedule some time directly on my calendar. I'm happy to chat with anybody who thinks that I might be able to add some value.
So just check the link in the show notes. If for some reason that jingle of 321-421-5213 is just not in your head yet, it will be, and we'll start to come up. I think Michael was coming up with a way to jingleize that number.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, 321-421
commercial.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Empire. Call Empire today. 321-421-5213. Text the word life to that number. All of that will be right there in the show notes. John, good to have you another week, and thanks for sharing all your wisdom with the community. Thanks for being here.
All right. We'll see you next time.